Okay, so this is a very informal video, just going over a very common question that I keep getting, which is what kind of database am I using? And the answer confuses a lot of people because the answer is normally Git. Now, I know a lot of you have heard of Git before and are wondering, why am I using Git, not a real database like MySQL, PostgreSQL, or even MongoDB? And it's a very complicated answer. First thing I want to go over is some of the requirements for Clear.Dental. First of which is that it should work when the network is down. If I can't access the server, I should still be able to access the data. I should be able to keep track of changes, who made what change and when. That way, if somebody added something like an allergy, I know who added that allergy and when that allergy was added in. Or if something gets removed, what was it that got removed? You want to make it such that you can do an off-site backup. Think of like a cloud storage where you don't have to upload the entire database each week in order to do your backups. And then the most important thing is that you want to be able to see the data no matter what. Now, it's kind of strange for a lot of people that I have this requirements for fault tolerance, but my answer for that is if you don't think don't break, you need to spend more time in the clinic. Things break all the time. And you don't want to be put in a situation where you have to treat a patient blind. So if there should be a backup to the backup to the backup, you should be able to get access to that. Last thing you want to do is harm the patient. So a lot of places, what they like to do is kind of like a centralized database. Now, with a centralized database, you would have just one server and then multiple clients connecting to that one server. This is not a good situation simply because if that client were to lose connection for whatever reason, that client can't use any data at all because all the data is stored into the server, not into the client. Or if the server is down for whatever reason, well, they can't do anything at all. Nobody can do anything. And if you are a solo practitioner, that means you get no treatment done for the rest of the day. So, another requirement I want to just quickly talk about is the memory requirements. So, these are very high end, upper end estimates on how much memory is required for any kind of patient database. So, text is basically free. You shouldn't expect more than a couple megabytes per year of actual text being made by the different providers. As far as the radiographs, that's going to be the one that takes up the most amount of space. So, in a really well run single doctor practice, you're going to have around 360 new patients each year. After 10 years, you would have 3,600 patients, in which you would have a really, really busy practice. A good, well run practice is around 1,500. So after year five, you probably are too busy. But assuming that you're taking 4 bite wings every year on each patient that shows up, and you're giving each patient a full mouth series or a pan every time they come in, you should expect after year one just a requirement of 60 gigabytes. And then after year 10, 160 gigabytes. And that's already including the overhead that Git itself creates. So being able to store all the data on each computer is actually not that difficult. You don't need a RAID 1 10 terabyte hard drive machine that would contain all of your data. You can have it on every machine. And the way that I'm storing the file themselves are really, really simple INI files and JSON files. Yeah, I'm calling these guys JSON. So let's bring up Pat 1, also known as Wayne Breno. So you can see some of the basic information about Wayne right here. You can see some of the kind of fake info that I've added in. I can say, Wayne. I can save that. Now let's see what I just did there. So I can just open up the INI in any kind of text editor, and you can see what I did here. Name phonetic, Wayne. Just like over here. So if this were to crash for whatever reason, I can edit the INI and it would work exactly the way you would expect it to. For example, I am going to remove all that, save it, and then just basically refresh this one page, and then it's now gone, just like you would expect. Or if I did buena instead, you would see that right here. So the actual front-end applications read directly to the INI files, and these INI files are human readable. Anybody, including doctors, can actually read them directly. This is actually really important in situations where, for example, what if I need to see the list of medications right now? Any doctor can actually read this kind of data without needing a special software tool. It's not very pleasant to read, but it is still definitely possible. So going back to personal.ini. So what's actually going on in the background here is that every time I make a change here and hit the save button, it actually not only makes a change here, but it actually commits it as a new git commit. So I'm just going to go to his personal. I'm going to say, oh, wait, the race, he is actually Black or African American. I'm going to save that. And then you can see that it changed into personal INI. So I'm just going to reload that difference. So you can see race has been updated. And more importantly, now you can see that on the get difference, this has been updated as well. So I can see all the differences that has been done. So it doesn't have to have the entire file each time. It just has to have a diff. So I can see at which day, at which time, exactly what changes were made and by whom. It says here that I was the one who made those changes. So if you ever need to go back in time to see how the patient's chart used to look like, it's actually very trivial on the back end. And of course, it uses the raw files that are there. So you don't ever have to write a complicated SQL query in order to see what the current data looks like. And that's about it. So that should give you some idea of how this system works and why it works this way. And if you have any more questions, please let me know.